Welcome back. Tonight, we're gently exploring the complete Little Nightmares timeline, from beginning to end. If you enjoy calm game stories like this, a like really helps, and subscribing means you won't miss the next one. Get comfortable and let the story carry you. Imagine a world where childhood innocence collides with something ancient and hungry, where the rain never stops falling and the adults have forgotten what it means to be human. Before everything changed, picture this. Somewhere in the vast emptiness of dark waters, there exists a structure that shouldn't be. The Maw, a massive vessel that drifts through fog-thick seas, calling to something broken in the world above. But our story doesn't begin there. Not quite yet. Before the Maw, before the signal that would tear reality apart, there were children. Lost children. Children who wandered into places they shouldn't have been, drawn by forces they couldn't understand. This moment matters because it sets everything in motion. The cycle of hunger, the transmission that corrupts, the thin places where our world touches something worse. Let me guide you through the fog. Part 1. The Signal Tower's Shadow. Little Nightmares 2. The Wilderness Beyond. Our journey truly begins in a forest where light struggles to penetrate. Imagine dense trees that seem to lean away from something, as if even nature knows better than to look directly at what waits ahead. Here, in the cold and the damp, a small figure stirs. This is Mono, a boy wearing a paper bag over his head, 4 eye holes cut crudely into its surface. Think about what it means to hide your face from the world, to need that barrier between yourself and everything else. He wakes in this forest alone, though he won't be alone for long. The woods are quiet in the way that frightens children. Not silent, never silent, but filled with sounds that don't quite make sense. The creaking of wood that might be trees or might be something else. Distant static that hums just at the edge of hearing. Mono moves through this wilderness, small hands navigating fallen logs and shallow streams. This moment matters because Mono is searching for something, even if he doesn't know it yet. There's a pull, like a tide in his chest, drawing him forward. He finds remnants of human habitation, a broken shack, debris scattered like confetti after a party no one enjoyed. And then he discovers her, 6, and the hunter's domain. Imagine a child trapped in a room that smells of old meat and older fear. 6, a girl in a yellow raincoat that's become her armor against the world, hangs from a ceiling in the hunter's cabin. The hunter, you need to understand, isn't quite human anymore. Whatever the signal tower has done to the adults, he's been twisted into something that sees children as prey. Mono finds 6 here, and in an act of courage that defines him, he sets her free. She drops to the floor, wary, watching this strange boy in his paper mask. For a moment, they simply observe each other, 2 small lives in a world designed to crush them. This is where their partnership begins. 6 doesn't speak, and neither does Mono, but they understand each other in the way children do when words would only complicate things. She takes his hand. The hunter's domain sprawls before them, a nightmare of taxidermy and cruel metal traps. Picture this. A man so consumed by the need to hunt that he's built his entire existence around it. His shotgun blasts echo through the woods like thunder, each shot a promise that he won't stop. He can't stop. The signal tower has made sure of that. Mono and 6 navigate this killing ground together. They crawl through passages too small for adult bodies, use each other's weight to reach higher ground, and learn the rhythm of cooperation. When 6 boosts Mono up to a window, when Mono pulls her across a gap, these aren't just mechanical actions. They're building trust in a world where trust is the rarest commodity. The hunter pursues them relentlessly through his workshop of death. They see what he does to the children, he catches the awful preservation, the trophies of innocence destroyed. This moment matters because it shows them what they're running from. Not just death, but the obliteration of everything they are. Their escape comes at a cost. Mono finds the hunter's shotgun, too heavy for his small arms, but he manages. The blast echoes through the woods, and the hunter falls. For the first time, these children have fought back. But violence, even in self-defense, changes you. They leave the forest behind, but the signal tower's pull grows stronger. The pale city beckons. Imagine walking from wilderness into civilization and finding it worse than the wild. The pale city rises before them like a mouth full of broken teeth, buildings that lean, streets that wind in patterns that hurt to follow, rain that never, ever stops. This is a city that died while still breathing. The rain has washed away color, leaving everything in shades of gray and brown and the sick yellow of old bruises. Before they even enter, Mono and Six can see the televisions in every window, screens flickering with that same static that hummed in the forest. The city feels empty at first. Boots splash through puddles that reflect nothing. Buildings loom overhead, windows like dead eyes. But emptiness in this world is never just emptiness. It's the pause before something notices you. They make their way through abandoned apartments where the remains of lives pile up like archaeological layers. A child's toy here, a family photo there, all of it decomposing under the weight of the rain. Picture moving through someone's home after they've vanished, touching their things, trying to understand what happened. The televisions are everywhere, in every home, every shop, every corner. And they're all tuned to the same frequency the signal towers broadcast. Static and shapes that might be images or might be something reaching through the screen. The School of Broken Bells. The school appears before them like a monument to educational cruelty. This moment matters because schools should be safe places. But the signal tower has corrupted even this. Imagine the teacher, a woman whose neck extends like a serpent, who can see around corners and through walls, whose sole purpose has been reduced to maintaining order among children who can no longer learn. The building itself feels wrong. Hallways stretch too long. Classroom doors open onto spaces that shouldn't fit. The bullies' children who've been twisted into porcelain-faced hunters of their own kind roam the corridors in packs, Mono and Six separate here. And you can feel the anxiety of it. Six is captured, stuffed into a room with other children who sit motionless before a television, their faces slack with the signal's influence. Mono must navigate the school alone, which means facing the teacher and her impossible neck that whips around corners, seeking small bodies to drag back to classrooms. The library becomes a maze of falling books and narrow spaces. The science room offers jars of specimens that might have once been students. Every room tells a story of education turned predatory. When Mono finally reunites with Six in the music room, using the piano to draw out the teacher and destroy her, their relief is palpable even without words. But something has changed in Six during her time alone with the television. When Mono smashes the screen to free her, there's a moment, just a flicker, where she seems reluctant to leave it. The hospital of lost bodies. From the school, the rain leads them to the hospital, and this is where the story darkens in new ways. Picture a medical facility where the patients have fused with their chairs, where the doctor crawls across ceilings with limbs that bend in too many directions, where the mannequin parts lie scattered like a puzzle of human form. The hospital reeks of formaldehyde and forgotten suffering. The patients sit in their chairs wearing suits and dresses from another era, their bodies bloated and melted into the furniture. They don't move until you're close, and then they lunge with grasping hands, seeking what they've lost. The doctor is worse. Imagine a physician so obsessed with understanding the human body that he's taken himself apart and put himself back together wrong. He scuttles through vents, drops from ceiling panels, his breathing a wet rasp that echoes through tiled hallways. Mono and Six navigate through rooms where body parts are stored like inventory, through incinerators still warm with ash, through surgical theaters where the tables are child-sized. The mannequin limbs scattered throughout become both obstacle and tool. They can throw them to distract the doctor, hide among the piles, but touching them is a reminder of bodies broken down to components. Six falls here. The doctor captures her, and Mono must descend into the darkest depths of the hospital, the furnace room where bodies are disposed of. This moment matters because it's when Mono discovers what he can do. There's a television down here, and when Mono touches it, something happens. The screen ripples like water, and he's pulled through into somewhere else. A corridor that exists between transmissions, where he can travel through the signal tower's network. He emerges from another screen, closer to Six, and in his hands is the knowledge that the televisions aren't just broadcasting, their doorways. Together, they lure the doctor into the furnace. The flames consume him, but even in his death throes, he reaches for them. The hospital burns as they leave, smoke mixing with rain, the city streets and the viewer. The city proper sprawls before them now, and this is where they encounter the viewers in force. Imagine adults whose entire existence has collapsed into the television screen. They shamble through apartments, through streets, through their own lives like sleepwalkers. The signal tower has hollowed them out, filled them with nothing but the need to watch. The viewers don't notice Mono and Six at first. They're too fixated on their screens. Bodies slack, eyes reflecting that endless static, but interfere with their viewing, break their connection to the broadcast, and they transform into something frantic and violent. Mono and Six move through a shopping district where mannequins outnumber the living. They navigate through stores where viewers sit motionless before display televisions, through apartments where families have arranged themselves around their sets like worshipers at an altar. This is when the televisions become both threat and tool for Mono. He can use them to teleport, but each time he does, Six watches him with something in her eyes. Fear? Recognition? The screens call to him in ways they don't call to her, and this difference plants a seed. They reach a tower, not the signal tower yet, but close. The rain falls harder here, as if trying to wash them back. The Thin Man appears for the first time as more than a shape in static. The Thin Man's Hunt. Picture a figure that exists partially in transmission tall, dressed in a hat and coat from a bygone era, moving with the stuttering motion of a skipped frame. The Thin Man phases in and out of reality, appears from televisions, reaches through screens with hands that can pluck children from existence. He's hunting them. Specifically, he's hunting Mono. The chase becomes a nightmare of narrow escapes. Mono and Six run through collapsing buildings while the Thin Man walks through walls. They use televisions to flee, but he follows through the same screens. Reality bends around him, corridors stretch, doors seal themselves, the world rearranges to trap them. Six is fast, pulling Mono along, their hands clasped tight. They've survived so much together, the hunter, the teacher, the doctor. But the Thin Man is different. He's patient, relentless. And he's only interested in Mono. The pursuit culminates in a room where there's nowhere left to run. The Thin Man reaches through a television, his hand impossibly long, fingers seeking, and he catches Six. This moment matters because it changes everything. The Thin Man pulls Six through the screen, and she's gone. Mono is alone, screaming without sound, reaching for where she disappeared. The Thin Man vanishes, taking Six with him. Mono is left in the empty room, rain drumming against windows, the city's gray light filtering through. For the first time in this journey, he's truly alone, and the signal tower looms ahead, closer than ever. The journey to the tower. What follows is Mono's solitary trek through the worst the city has to offer. Without Six, every obstacle is harder, every close call more desperate. But he doesn't hesitate. She saved him from the hunter's trap, and he'll save her from whatever the Thin Man has planned. The city reveals new horrors for a lone child. The viewers become more aggressive, as if sensing his isolation. The televisions pulse with stronger signal, trying to pull him in, keep him watching. But Mono resists. He finds the path to the signal tower, through the city's deepest reaches, through tunnels where the rain has flooded, through basements where old broadcasts echo from broken sets, through the maintenance passages beneath reality itself. The signal tower rises from the center of everything, a monolith of impossible geometry. It's been calling to Mono since the forest, maybe since before he woke. Every television in the Pale City is an antenna for this structure, every screen a window into its influence. The approach to the tower distorts space. Buildings lean toward it, streets curve around it, reality thins in its presence. Mono climbs through the skeletal remains of structures that have been consumed by the tower's expansion, through masses of televisions that have fused together into walls of static, and then he's inside. Within the signal tower, imagine a space that exists between transmission and reception. The signal tower's interior is a maze of corridors that don't follow physical laws. Stairs that lead to ceilings, doors that open onto the same room from different angles. Screens line every surface, showing fragments of broadcasts, faces, places, moments from across the city and beyond. Mono navigates through this impossible architecture, following the thread of Six's presence. He can feel her here, somewhere in the static. The tower tries to stop him, shifting its passages, sending visions through the screens. He sees himself on the televisions, sees Six, sees things that haven't happened yet or have already happened in loops he can't understand. Deep in the tower's heart, he finds what the Thin Man has done to Six. She's been changed, distorted. The signal tower has stretched her into something monstrous, limbs too long, movements jerky and wrong, face hidden by her hair. This is Six transformed by prolonged exposure to the tower's transmission, made into something the tower can use. Monster Six doesn't recognize Mono. She attacks, chasing him through the tower's shifting rooms. This moment matters because Mono must fight not to hurt her, but to reach her. He dodges her grasping hands, lures her through the environment, searching for a way to bring her back. The chase becomes a desperate game of cat and mouse through the tower's endless rooms. Mono uses the environment against her, dropping obstacles, creating distance, all while the tower itself seems to pulse with cruel amusement. Finally, Mono finds the music box. It sits in a room at the tower's core, playing a lullaby that echoes through the static. Six, the monstrous version, clutches it, rocks with it, lost in its melody. The music box is her anchor to the tower's influence, the thing keeping her in this twisted state. Mono breaks it. Again and again, he smashes the music box while Six screams silent protests. Each break reduces her size, brings her closer to herself. It's an act of violence and salvation intertwined. He's hurting her to save her, destroying the thing she clings to because he knows what it's doing to her. When the music box finally shatters completely, Six collapses. The distortion fades. She's herself again, small, wearing her yellow raincoat, human, the Thin Man revealed. But the tower isn't done with them. The Thin Man appears, manifesting from the screens around them. Now Mono must face him directly. The confrontation happens across multiple realities. Mono grabs a remote control absurd in its mundanity and uses it to fight back. Each button press disrupts the Thin Man's transmission, causes him to glitch and phase. Mono runs through doorways that lead to different versions of the same corridor, uses the tower's own impossible geometry against its guardian. The battle is exhausting, terrifying. The Thin Man is powerful here in his domain, but Mono has something the Thin Man doesn't expect: determination sharpened by care for another person. In the final confrontation, Mono discovers he can pull the Thin Man through the screens, trap him in the static between transmissions. He does it, channeling the same power that let him teleport, but reversed. The Thin Man scatters into fragments across the tower's network, neutralized but not destroyed. Six and Mono reunite in the aftermath. She's weak, disoriented, but herself. They have to escape. The tower is collapsing around them, or maybe it's just withdrawing from them. Either way, they run. The betrayal at the door. The escape is a frantic dash through disintegrating reality. Corridors crumble, screens shatter, the tower's influence peeling away. Mono and Six run hand in hand, supporting each other as they've done throughout this entire journey. They reach a gap, a long drop between platforms, between the tower and the city beyond. Mono jumps, barely catches the edge. Six lands safely on the other side and turns back. Mono's fingers slip on the edge, his grip failing. Their eyes meet across the gap. Mono reaches up. Six reaches down. This is the moment that breaks everything. She catches his hand. For a heartbeat, she holds on. But then, and this is the tragedy at the center of this entire story, she sees his face, sees something in him that frightens her more than the tower, more than the Thin Man, more than anything they've survived. Six lets go. Mono falls back into the signal tower, watching her diminish above him. She turns and walks away, yellow raincoat disappearing into the rain. He falls through darkness, through static, through the tower's embrace. The tower catches him. Of course it does. This was always meant to happen. The loop closes. Time in the signal tower isn't like time outside. Mono sits in a room at its heart, watching screens. He grows, distorted by prolonged exposure. His limbs stretch, his body lengthens, until he's no longer a child, but something else, something thin. Picture this: a boy abandoned by the one person he trusted, left in a prison of transmissions, watching the world through screens, watching Six, especially. Following her journey through those same screens, the paper bag eventually comes off, replaced by a hat. The child's clothes stretch to fit an adult frame. And Mono becomes the thin man, the very entity he fought against. The loop closes. He was always chasing himself, always trying to prevent his own creation. This moment matters because it reveals the true horror of the signal tower. It doesn't just corrupt, it creates paradoxes, time loops, cycles of suffering that feed back into themselves. Mono became the thin man because Six betrayed him, because the thin man hunted them, because Mono became the thin man. The thin man will eventually leave the tower, will hunt through the Pale City's televisions, will pursue a boy in a paper bag and a girl in a yellow raincoat, will create the circumstances that lead to his own creation. Round and round, like a transmission caught in an endless loop, but that's later. For now, Mono sits in the tower, watching screens, waiting for time to catch up to the beginning of his end. Part 2. The Maw awaits little nightmares. I, the suitcase prison. Shift your attention now across dark waters to another kind of nightmare. The Maw, a vast vessel that processes human need into something consumable. And deep in its lowest depths, in a place called the prison, a small figure stirs inside a suitcase. This is Six again. The same girl in the yellow raincoat, but this is later for her. After the Pale City. After leaving Mono to fall, she's been captured, brought to the Maw, locked in luggage like cargo. She wakes with a hunger. Not just physical hunger, though that's part of it. This hunger is deeper, darker, a gnawing emptiness that's been growing since the signal tower, since the betrayal, since something broke inside her. The prison is a vertical nightmare of cages and chains. Other children hang in cages around her, but they're not moving. Some might be sleeping. Some might be past waking. Six doesn't stop to check. She has to move, has to escape, driven by that hunger and something else, an instinct that tells her staying still means death. The architecture of the Maw is industrial cruelty. Everything is too big for children, designed for adult hands and adult purposes. Six climbs through pipes, barely wide enough for her body, squeezes through gaps, uses her small size as her only advantage. She encounters the leech's bloated creatures that swarm in the darkness, drawn to warmth and movement. They drop from ceilings, crawl from drains, and Six must navigate past them, using light as a weapon. A lighter found clutched in her hand when she woke becomes her sword against the dark. This moment matters because the lighter is her comfort and her curse. It keeps the darkness at bay, but its light is small and temporary. Every time it flickers, every time it threatens to die, Six feels that hunger grows stronger. The janitor's domain, deep in the prison, the janitor lurks. Imagine a man who's become part of the machinery of child catching. His arms extend impossibly long, reaching through grates and around corners. He can't see, his eyes are gone or never work, but he doesn't need sight when he can feel vibrations through the floor, smell fear in the air. The janitor's quarters are a mockery of domesticity, a workspace where children are processed like products. Hooks on chains dangle from ceilings. The stench of preserved things hangs heavy. And everywhere, the sound of him moving the shuffle drag of his body, the whisper of those arms extending. Six navigates through his world with the caution of prey. She watches him work from hiding places, learns his patterns. When his arms shoot out to grab her, she's already moving. When he feels her footsteps, she's already gone. But the hunger is growing. 6 finds a piece of bread abandoned in a corner, devours it without hesitation. It barely touches the emptiness inside her. If anything, eating makes her more aware of how hungry she really is. The escape from the janitor comes through cunning. 6 lures him to a place where she can trap those long arms, sever them with the maw's own machinery. It's brutal. Necessary. The janitor's screams echo through the prison as 6 runs toward the upper levels. She's leaving the prison behind, but the maw has many levels, many layers of nightmare to navigate, the depths and the granny. Between the prison and the maw's upper regions lies an aquatic horror, the depths flooded corridors where something old and hungry swims. The granny, locals might call her, though she's far beyond any human grandmother. She's been twisted by the maw's influence into something that belongs in deep ocean trenches. Picture 6 swimming through murky water, the lighter useless here. Everything is darkness and rushing water, and the sense of something massive moving nearby. The granny is blind but sensitive to every ripple, every splash. She glides through the flooded rooms with terrifying grace, mouth open, seeking. 6 must time her swimming perfectly, wait for the granny to pass, then move quickly and silently through the water. Break the surface only when necessary, knowing each breath might give her away. The depths are littered with the remains of children who didn't make it. Shoes float in the water. Small bones settle in corners. This is where the maw dumps its failures, its waste, and the granny is the final processing system. 6 survives through a combination of luck and desperate courage. She finds air pockets, uses floating debris as cover, and eventually reaches a drainage pipe that leads upward. Behind her, the granny still searches, still hungers. But 6 is already climbing toward the kitchen, the twin chefs. The kitchen of the maw is where children become food. Not metaphorically, literally. The twin chefs, identical in their rotund bodies and chef's whites, run this operation with disturbing efficiency. They're preparing for a feast, and children are the main ingredient. 6 emerges into chaos. The kitchen is a massive space of steel counters, industrial ovens, boiling pots, and hanging meat hooks. The chefs move with surprising speed for their size, chopping, stirring, preparing with the dedication of true culinary artists. That their materials are deeply wrong doesn't seem to bother them. This is where 6's hunger becomes dangerous. She finds food everywhere, sausages, chunks of meat, bread. She eats what she can grab, but nothing satisfies. The emptiness inside her grows with each bite, as if feeding it only makes it stronger. The kitchen sequence is a deadly game of hide and seek. 6 uses the environment to evade the chefs, hiding in lockers, under tables, behind shelves of ingredients. When one chef is distracted by cooking, she slips past. When both are in the room, she waits with the patience of survival. She sees what they're preparing, platters piled with food for the guests above. The sheer scale of it suggests the maw's feast will be massive. And somewhere in that preparation, 6 realizes that she was meant to be part of the menu. The escape from the kitchen requires another act of violence. 6 lures one of the chefs to a position where she can use the environment against him, perhaps a meat grinder, perhaps a freezer. The methodology matters less than the result. The chef is neutralized, and 6 slips through to the upper levels. But the hunger remains. If anything, it's worse now. 6 doubles over with it. The emptiness, like a physical pain. The guest quarters, is where the maw's true purpose reveals itself. This is a luxury vessel, a cruise ship, for those with appetites they need satisfied. The guests are grotesque in their consumption, bloated figures in masks and formal wear, reduced to nothing but the need to eat. They sit at long tables in a dining hall that stretches beyond sight. Plates pile high with food. The guests shovel it in with their hands, barely chewing, never satisfied. Some fall from their chairs, too full to stand, and simply continue eating from the floor. 6 moves through this feast like a ghost. The guests don't notice her at first, they're too focused on consumption, but get too close, make too much noise, and they'll lunge for her with the same hunger they show their food. To them, she's just another morsel. This moment matters because Six sees herself reflected in the guests. Their hunger is her hunger, just further along. The emptiness inside her recognizes the emptiness inside them. She's becoming what she's running from. In the guest quarters, Six finds a sausage. Her hunger is unbearable now, a consuming void. She eats, but it's not enough. Nothing is enough. The hunger has become a living thing inside her, demanding more than food can provide. The lady's quarters. At the top of the maw lives the lady, the vessel's mistress, the orchestrator of this entire operation. Her quarters are a contrast to the industrial horror below. Elegant, appointed with vanities and mirrors, everything carefully arranged. But the mirrors are all covered or turned to face walls. The lady cannot bear her own reflection. Six encounters her in these upper chambers. The lady is powerful, wielding magic that manifests as darkness, as illusions, as attacks that bend reality. She hunts Six through her quarters with the calm certainty of a predator on home ground. The confrontation becomes a chase through increasingly surreal environments. The lady uses mirrors as weapons and portals, appearing from unexpected angles. Six must navigate through rooms that change, through corridors that loop back on themselves. But Six has learned something in her time on the maw. She's learned that sometimes the only way to survive is to take what you need. In the lady's quarters, Six finds a mirror that isn't covered. When the lady attacks, Six turns this mirror toward her. The lady sees her own reflection, sees whatever it is she's been hiding from, and it weakens her. The magic falters. The predator becomes prey. Six closes in. The hunger rages inside her, demands satisfaction. And in the final confrontation, Six does something that crosses a line beyond return. She eats the lady. Not literally, but she consumes her essence, her power, her life force. The act satisfies the hunger in a way food never could. Six absorbs the lady's abilities, takes her place at the top of the maw's hierarchy. But this moment matters because it's not a victory, it's a transformation. Six has fed the darkness inside her with something more than bread or sausage. She's consumed a person, and in doing so, she's become something else. The escape and its price. With the lady's power flowing through her, Six walks through the maw unchallenged. The guests cower from her. The remaining crew keeps their distance. She's no longer prey. She's become the predator. She walks through the guest quarters as they feast, and this time they notice her. They reach out, perhaps in recognition, perhaps in hunger. And Six, empowered by what she's consumed, walks past them, leaving them to their endless meal. But as she moves through the dining hall, the hunger rises again. One final time. A starving guest, different from the others, reaches out to her, offers a piece of sausage. A final kindness? Or perhaps just an automatic gesture from someone too, consumed by hunger to know better. Six doesn't take the offered food. Instead, she bites into the guest, consumes them as she consumed the lady, feeds the darkness one more time. She walks to the stairs that lead up and out. Behind her, the maw continues its operations, the kitchen preparing, the guests consuming, the machinery of horror grinding on. But Six is done with it. She climbs toward daylight, toward freedom, carrying the darkness inside her. The boat appears in the distance. Six stands at the edge of the maw, looking out at gray waters under gray skies. She's free, she's powerful, and she's no longer quite human. This is where the first game ends, with Six escaping into an uncertain future, transformed by hunger into something that mirrors the very monsters she fled from. Part 3, The Nowhere Expands, Little Nightmares 3. And now, imagine the world growing wider, the horrors multiplying. Because Six's story and Mono's story were never isolated incidents, they were symptoms of a larger sickness infecting reality. Low and alone. In another part of this twisted world, a place called the Nowhere, where childhood fears take physical form, two new children wake in a desert. This is Low and alone, and their story runs parallel to everything we've witnessed, another thread in a tapestry of nightmare. Low wears a makeshift mask, a barrier between himself and the world. Alone's face is hidden beneath a hood, identity obscured. They find each other in a vast expanse of sand and rusted machinery, drawn together by the same force that drives all lost children, the need to survive. But their connection is different from what Mono and Six shared. Lo and Alone are truly together, bound by a mysterious tether, a bow that connects them physically and metaphorically. When they're separated, they feel the pull. When they're together, they're stronger. The desert they traverse is littered with the corpses of massive machines, industrial remnants from some forgotten purpose. Cranes that once moved mountains now lie toppled in sand. This world has consumed its own progress and left the bones behind. The spiral. Their journey leads them to a structure rising from the wasteland, the spiral, a monument to ascension twisted into descent. It reaches upward and downward simultaneously, defying simple geometry. At its heart is the monster baby, a grotesque infant expanded to building size, crying an endless wail that echoes across the nowhere. Imagine a baby that should never have been born, kept alive by machinery and malice, grown to proportions that mock nurture. The monster baby doesn't hunt with intention. It's too simple for that. But its needs are vast, its hunger cosmic. When it cries, reality shudders. Lo and Alone must navigate the spiral's interior, a maze of nursery rooms and industrial corridors. Cribs large enough to hold children like cages, mobile decorations that track movement, the aesthetics of childcare corrupted into imprisonment. The monster baby's caretakers, twisted figures that might once have been nurses or parents, tend to it with disturbing devotion. They feed it, comfort it, maintain the machinery that keeps it alive, and they protect it from intruders like Lo and Alone. The escape from the spiral requires cooperation. Lo and Alone must work in perfect sync, using their tether to swing across gaps, to pull each other to safety. They're learning what Mono and Six never quite mastered: true partnership without the poison of betrayal waiting beneath. The candy factory. From the spiral, their path leads to a factory that produces something between sustenance and toxin. The candy factory is a riot of sickly colors, pinks and purples and greens that hurt to look at. Everything is sticky, sweet, and slightly wrong. The workers here have been consumed by their product. They've eaten so much candy that it's become them, their bodies swollen and crystallized with sugar. They move in slow motion. Sticky footsteps, squelching, reaching for Lo and Alone with fingers that drip syrup. This moment matters because it's another variation on the hunger theme that runs through all these stories. The monster baby's endless need, Six's consuming emptiness, the guest's infinite appetite, they all connect to something fundamental in the nowhere. The world itself seems to run on hunger, on consumption, on the need to fill voids that can never be filled. Lo and Alone navigate through vats of boiling candy, across conveyor belts, carrying treats to unknown destinations, through packaging rooms where products are prepared for shipment. The scale is overwhelming. Industrial horror dressed in carnival colors. They sabotage the factory to create their escape, breaking the machinery, unleashing chaos. Candy flows like lava through the facility. The workers scramble, more concerned with their product than with the children. And Lo and Alone slip away, sticky with sugar and survival. The necropolis. The factory gives way to a city of the dead. The necropolis isn't quite like the Pale City. It's older, more obviously decayed. Buildings crumble not from neglect, but from active decomposition, as if the city itself is a corpse in various stages of rot. Here, they encounter the residents' figures that aren't quite ghosts, aren't quite alive. They go through motions of existence without existence, sitting at bus stops where buses never come, standing in queues that lead nowhere. The bureaucracy of death continuing long after life has fled. The dummy workers inhabit this space, mannequins animated by something between electricity and necromancy. They perform tasks with perfect precision, maintaining a city that serves no purpose. When they notice Lo and Alone, they pursue with mechanical determination, not malice, just programmed response to unauthorized presence. Lo and Alone must navigate through this automated cemetery, avoiding the workers and the traps inherent in a city that's forgotten how to be alive. They cross bridges that sway over chasms, climb through buildings where floors have collapsed, hide in rooms where the dummy workers perform their endless tasks. The necropolis reveals something important about the nowhere. It's not just a place where children suffer. It's a realm where all life is twisted, where cities and people and purpose all decay into monstrous parodies of themselves. The transmission revealed. As Lo and Alone journey deeper, they begin to encounter the screens. Televisions showing static, radios broadcasting nothing. Every device tuned to the same frequency that consumed the Pale City, that created the Thin Man, that touches everything in the nowhere. This is how the stories connect. The signal tower's transmission doesn't end with the Pale City. It spreads, infects, corrupts across the entire nowhere. The monster baby, the candy factory, the necropolis, they're all touched by it, all twisted by the same force that trapped Mono. Lo and Alone don't fully understand what they're seeing, but they recognize danger. When they encounter a working television, they destroy it. When they hear the static, they run. They're learning through instinct what others learned through suffering. The final descent. Their journey culminates in a descent into tunnels beneath the necropolis, into spaces that exist between the locations we visited. Here, the true nature of the nowhere begins to reveal itself. Imagine a network of passages connecting all the nightmares. The Maw's prison touches these tunnels. The signal tower's roots spread through them. The spiral's foundation rests upon them. Everything is connected beneath the surface, all feeding into the same system of horror. Lo and Alone find evidence of other children down here. Drawings on walls, small shoes abandoned, messages scratched into stone. They're not the first to try to escape, won't be the last. The nowhere consumes children like fuel, like the raw material for its continued existence. In the deepest chamber, they find something that might be an answer or might be a new question. A door. Not a normal door, but a threshold that pulses with possibility. Beyond it, they can hear something. Wind, water, the sound of somewhere else. They don't hesitate. Together, still connected by their tether, Lo and Alone step through. The cycle continues. And here's where all these threads weave together into the larger tapestry. Let me guide you through what it all means. Picture the nowhere not as a single location, but as a state of existence. It's where reality goes when it's consumed by fear, hunger, and corruption. The signal tower didn't create the nowhere. It's a symptom of it, a manifestation of the forces that twist the world. Children are vulnerable to the nowhere in ways adults aren't. Adults have already been consumed, transformed into the guests, the viewers, the hunter, the teacher. But children still have the possibility of escape, of resistance. That's why they're hunted. That's why they're processed, consumed, absorbed into the machinery. Six's journey took her from victim to monster, from the hunted to the hunter. Her hunger wasn't just physical, it was the nowhere's influence, growing inside her, demanding she feed it. When she consumed the lady, she completed her transformation. She became part of the system she tried to escape. Mono's journey trapped him in a loop of suffering. His betrayal by Six created the Thin Man, who hunted them, which led to the betrayal. The signal tower feeds on this paradox, uses it to spread its influence. Every time the loop repeats, the transmission grows stronger. Lo and Alone represent something different. Cooperation without corruption. Their tether is literal and metaphorical. They're bound together in ways that resist the nowhere's tendency to isolate and divide. Maybe that's why they survive. Maybe that's why they find the door, the larger horror. Before we reach our conclusion, understand this. The nowhere is expanding. Every story we followed, every nightmare navigated, they're all points on a growing map of horror. The Maw sails through dark waters, but those waters touch every shore. The Pale City's reign falls beyond its borders. The signal tower's transmission reaches farther with each broadcast. The spiral ascends and descends beyond its physical structure. The candy factory ships its product to unknown destinations. The necropolis grows with each death. Children wake in new nightmares every day. Some in forests, some in suitcases, some in deserts. They all face the same choice: run, hide, and maybe survive, or stop running and be consumed. Some children resist longer than others. Some find companions. Some face the horrors alone. But all of them, eventually, are changed by the nowhere. Even survival comes at a cost. 6 carries the lady's power, but also her curse. Mono sits in the signal tower, becoming the monster he fought. Low and alone step through the door into whatever waits beyond, carrying the scars of everything they've witnessed. The questions that remain. Why does the nowhere exist? That's the question that haunts every corner of these stories. Is it punishment? Natural law? The result of some cosmic mistake? Perhaps the nowhere is what happens when the world forgets how to care for its children, when adults become so consumed by their own hungers for food, for entertainment, for power, that they create spaces where childhood itself becomes prey. The signal tower might be trying to communicate something through its transmission. The thin man might be trying to break his own loop. The lady might have had reasons for covering her mirrors, but explanations don't absolve. Understanding doesn't undo the harm. What we know is this: children continue to wake in nightmares. The cycle continues. The nowhere expands. The meaning in the darkness. Let me guide you one more time through what matters in these stories. 6's yellow raincoat remains bright in the gray world, not because she's untouched by darkness, but because she carries a spot of color through it. Even as she transforms, even as she consumes, that yellow endures. It's a reminder of what she was, what she might have been, had the nowhere not claimed her. Mono's paper bag was always meant to come off. His transformation into the thin man wasn't a corruption from outside, it was something within him, waiting for betrayal to unlock it. The nowhere doesn't create monsters from nothing. It reveals what was always possible. Low and Alone's tether suggests that connection is possible even in places designed to isolate. Their survival isn't guaranteed, but their partnership offers something the other children never quite achieved: mutual trust without the poison of self-preservation overriding it. The children we followed are both victims and participants. They kill to survive, they betray to escape, they consume when hungry. The nowhere strips away civilization's veneer and reveals the raw mechanisms of survival. In doing so, it asks uncomfortable questions about what we're all capable of when pressed. The cycle as commentary. These stories, taken together, form a commentary on consumption itself. The guests eat until they can't stand. The viewers watch until they can't see anything else. The hunter kills until killing becomes identity. The teacher maintains order until order becomes tyranny. Every adult in these stories has been reduced to a single function, consumed by a single purpose. They're what happens when human complexity collapses into obsession. The children represent the moment before that collapse. They still have choices, still have the possibility of being more than one thing. But the nowhere presses in on all sides, offering only narrow paths. Consume or be consumed, betray or be betrayed, transform or be destroyed. 6 chooses consumption, Mono chooses isolation, Low and Alone choose each other. None of these are happy endings, but they're the endings available in a world that's forgotten how to nurture. The horror of normality. One of the most disturbing aspects of these stories is how ordinary the horror becomes. The Maw is a luxury cruise ship with a dark menu. The school still has bells and classrooms. The hospital still performs procedures. The candy factory still produces treats. The framework of normal life continues, but hollowed out and repurposed for nightmare. This suggests that the nowhere isn't a break from reality. It's reality with the mask removed, showing what lurks beneath systems we take for granted. The guest quarters show us consumption culture taken to its logical extreme. The Pale City shows us media addiction made literal. The school shows us educational institutions as prisons. The hospital shows us medical practice as body horror. These aren't metaphors. In the world of Little Nightmares, they're literal truths, but they reflect our own world's shadows, our own cultural nightmares given form. the children who came before. Throughout these stories, we see evidence of countless children who came before our protagonists. Shoes in the depths, drawings in the school, bodies in the hunter's workshop. The nowhere has been consuming children for a long time. This raises the question, why children specifically? What is it about childhood that makes it the target, the fuel, the currency of this world? Perhaps because children are still becoming. They're not yet locked into single purposes like the adults. They're potential itself. And the nowhere feeds on potential, corrupts it, transforms it into new horrors, or consumes it entirely. Every child who enters the nowhere is a possibility that could have been. Every transformation is a future erased. Every consumption is a life reduced to energy for the machine. The tragedy isn't just what happens to Six, to Mono, to Lo, and Alone. It's what happens to all the children we never meet, whose stories end in cages or stomachs or signal transmissions. The geography of nightmare. As our journey through these stories concludes, consider the map we've drawn. The nowhere is vast, containing multitudes of horror. The wilderness, where Mono woke, touches the Pale City. The Pale City's rain falls toward the ocean. The ocean holds the maw. The maw's waste feeds the depths. The depths connect to tunnels. The tunnels reach toward the spiral. The spiral's cry echoes across the desert. The desert eventually ends at another wilderness, another city, another nightmare. It's not a closed system, it's a spreading infection. Every location we visited connects to others we haven't seen. The candy factory ships its products somewhere. The signal tower's transmission reaches new territories. The necropolis expands with each death. Children keep waking up in new nightmares because new nightmares keep being born. The nowhere grows by consuming the world, turning ordinary places into extraordinary horrors. The question of escape. Did anyone truly escape? This is what we must ask as we reach the end. Six left the maw, but she carried the hunger with her, carried the lady's power. She's free from physical imprisonment, but bound by what she's become. Mono never escaped at all. He created the trap he's caught in, will be caught in, has always been caught in. The signal tower is his prison and his kingdom, and time there loops infinitely. Lo and Alone step through a door, but we don't know what's on the other side. Freedom? Another nightmare? A different kind of trap? The nowhere is vast enough to contain infinite variations. Perhaps escape isn't about leaving a physical location. Perhaps it's about leaving behind what the nowhere represents: hunger, isolation, consumption, betrayal. By that measure, none of our protagonists escape. They all carry the darkness with them, the resonance of rain. Throughout these stories, rain falls. In the Pale City, it's constant. In other locations, it comes and goes, but it's always present somewhere, washing over the nowhere like tears from a sky that's seen too much. The rain isn't just atmosphere, it's evidence of a world that's crying, that's trying to wash itself clean and can't. The water flows through the city streets, into the sewers, out to the ocean, evaporates and falls again in an endless cycle that changes nothing. Like the children running through these stories, the rain is caught in patterns it can't escape. It falls because it must fall. It washes because that's what rain does. But the stains beneath remain unchanged by water or time. The legacy of betrayal. Mono's fall, the moment Six let go, reverberates through everything. It's the emotional core around which the entire mythology revolves. She had reasons. She saw something in him that frightened her. Maybe she recognized the thin man's features in Mono's face. Maybe she understood that saving him would mean perpetuating the cycle. Or maybe she was just a child, exhausted and frightened, making a split-second decision that doomed them both. The reasons matter less than the result. That moment of betrayal created the Thin Man, yes, but it also created the emotional landscape of the nowhere, a place where trust is rewarded with abandonment, where partnership leads to isolation, where every relationship carries the seed of its own destruction. Lo and Alone's tether stands in contrast. They're physically bound, unable to betray each other without betraying themselves. Perhaps that's the only way to resist the nowhere's tendency to divide and consume, make connection so fundamental that betrayal becomes impossible. The sound beneath the static. If you listen carefully to the signal tower's transmission, beneath the static and the distortion, you might hear something. Not words exactly, but a pattern, a rhythm. It's a heartbeat. Or maybe a clock. Or maybe it's the sound of a loop completing, beginning again, completing, beginning. The tower doesn't just broadcast signal, it broadcasts time itself, trapping moments in cycles, ensuring that certain events happen over and over. Mono becomes the thin man. Mono becomes the thin man. The loop is the message. The cycle is the content. And every television in the nowhere is a speaker for this fundamental truth. You cannot escape what you're destined to become. But destiny in the nowhere isn't fate. It's a trap designed to look like fate. The signal tower creates the circumstances that seem inevitable. It's not predicting the future. It's building a prison out of time. The hunger's true nature. Six's hunger was never just about food. That's the key to understanding her transformation. When she ate the bread in the prison, it barely helped. When she consumed the sausage in the guest quarters, the emptiness grew worse. But when she consumed the lady, something changed. The hunger was satisfied temporarily because what Six truly craved wasn't sustenance, but power, control, the ability to ensure she'd never be prey again. The nowhere runs on hungers that can't be satisfied. The guests hunger for food they can't digest. The viewers hunger for content that doesn't nourish. The hunter hungers for prey that won't resurrect his humanity. Every hunger in this world is a hole that grows larger the more you try to fill it. Six's choice to consume the lady was her deciding to embrace the hunger rather than fight it, to become predator rather than prey. It's not evil, it's survival logic taken to its extreme conclusion in a world where mercy means death. The children's silence. None of the children speak throughout these stories. Not Six, not Mono, not Lo, not Alone. They cry out when hurt, gasp when frightened, but words never pass their lips. This silence is crucial. It marks them as still innocent in one fundamental way. They haven't yet learned to lie, to manipulate with language, to become verbal predators like the adults. Their communication is pure. Action, expression, touch. But the silence also isolates them. They can't explain their fears, can't negotiate with monsters, can't call for help across distances. The silence makes them vulnerable in a world where the only weapon might be words. When Six lets go of Mono, she does it silently. No explanation, no apology, no justification. Just the act itself, pure and terrible. Perhaps if she could speak, if she could explain, the betrayal might have been different. Or perhaps the inability to explain is what makes it unforgivable. The mask's meaning. Mono wore a paper bag. Lo wears a makeshift mask. Alone's face hides beneath the hood. The children in the cages, the ones who don't escape, they're faceless in our memories. The masks are shields against the nowhere's ability to see you, to know you, to claim you. But they're also prisons of their own barriers between the wearer and the world, between the self and others. When Mono's bag comes off in the signal tower, he's vulnerable for the first time, truly himself. And that's when time catches him, transforms him, makes him into the thin man. Perhaps the mask was the only thing keeping him human. Perhaps removing it was the moment he surrendered to his fate. Lo's mask stays on throughout his journey. Maybe that's why he survives. Maybe the key to navigating the nowhere is maintaining that barrier, never letting the world see all of you. The architecture of control. Every location in the nowhere is designed to control children. The prison has cages and locks. The school has detention and discipline. The hospital has examination tables and restraints. The maw has kitchens and meat hooks. But the control isn't just physical. The signal tower controls through hypnosis. The spiral controls through sound. The candy factory controls through addiction. The necropolis controls through routine. This suggests that the nowhere isn't just a place of random horrors. It's a system designed with purpose, built to process children through various forms of control until they're transformed or consumed. Who built this system? The lady? The thin man? Something older and darker that they both serve? The question remains unanswered, but the system itself is evident in every carefully constructed nightmare, the moments of beauty. Amid the horror, there are moments of terrible beauty. The way light falls through broken windows in the pale city, the bioluminescent glow of the leeches in the prison, the sickly rainbow colors of the candy factory, the rain's rhythm against metal. The nowhere isn't ugly, it's beautiful in ways that hurt to look at. This aesthetic corruption is part of its power. Horror would be easier to resist if it were simply repulsive. But when nightmare wears beauty's face, when terror comes wrapped in wonder, the mind struggles to reject it completely. Six's yellow raincoat is beautiful against the gray world. The music box's lullaby is beautiful even as it traps Six. The signal tower's transmission has a pattern that's almost hypnotic in its complexity. Beauty in the nowhere is a lure, a trap, a promise that breaks itself. It's one more way the world lies to children, one more method of corruption, the final understanding. As we reach the end of this journey through Little Nightmares, understand this. These stories don't offer easy answers or redemptive conclusions. They show us worlds where survival is victory and transformation is inevitable. Six becomes a monster, but she survives. Mono becomes trapped, but he becomes powerful. Lo and Alone find a door, but we don't know what it opens to. Every ending is ambiguous because the nowhere doesn't allow for simple resolutions. What these stories offer instead is witness. They show us what happens to children in places designed to consume them. They reveal the mechanics of how innocence is ground down into something else. They demonstrate the prices paid for survival in a world that values children only as fuel. The nightmares are little, not because they're small, but because they're personal. Each child's terror is specific, individual, intimate. Six's hunger is hers alone. Mono's betrayal is unique. Lo and Alone's partnership is singular. The horror scales down to the individual level, where it becomes most unbearable. The echoes continue. Even as our narration ends, the stories continue. Somewhere in the nowhere, another child is waking up. Another nightmare is beginning. The cycle perpetuates. The maw still sails. The signal tower still broadcasts. The spiral still cries. The factory still produces. The necropolis still grows. The machinery of horror grinds on, indifferent to our understanding or judgment. But knowing the stories matters. Witnessing matters. Even if we can't change the nowhere, even if we can't save the children trapped there, we can at least see them, acknowledge their struggles, understand their choices. Six running through rain. Mono falling into static. Lo and Alone stepping through the door. These images remain persistent as nightmares, important as warnings. Epilogue. The light in the lighthouse. Imagine, one final time, standing at the edge of everything we've explored. Behind you, the nowhere spreads in all directions. The city, the maw, the desert, the necropolis. Before you, a horizon where dark water meets darker sky. And somewhere in that vastness, a lighthouse stands. Not in the stories we've told, but implied by them. A place where light still shines, where maybe children aren't fuel, but future. We haven't visited this lighthouse. The children in our stories never reach it, but its existence is necessary, not as salvation, but as possibility. The idea that somewhere beyond the nightmares we've witnessed, something better might exist. Six carries the lady's power toward unknown shores. Mono watches through infinite screens. Lo and Alone step through into uncertainty. Their stories don't end. They just move beyond our ability to follow. The nowhere is vast, and we've only seen fragments. The little nightmares we've explored are pieces of a larger darkness. But in acknowledging that darkness, in walking through it as a guide, in helping you see what waits in the rain and static and hunger perhaps. We've done something the nowhere doesn't want. We've remembered, we've witnessed, we've refused to look away. And that, in the end, might be the only resistance possible. To see the nightmares for what they are, to understand the children for who they were, and to carry their stories forward into whatever waits beyond the final door. The rain continues to fall. The signal continues to broadcast. The hunger continues to grow. But the stories persist, small lights in vast darkness, reminding us that every nightmare began as a child, alone, trying to find their way home. This is what the little nightmares teach us. This is what we carry forward. This is what remains when everything else has been consumed.